On October 27th, 1974, around 10 p.m., just outside Essex, England, a family of 5 would have an experience they would never forget. 29-year-old John Avis, his wife Elaine, then aged 25, and their 3 children were driving home after visiting Elaine's parents. On the drive home, the family spotted an oval pale blue light on their left-hand side up in the sky. What happened next to the family was truly frightening and changed their lives forever. In this episode, we will explore the bizarre alien abduction of John Avis and his family. As John and his family were driving back home to Aveley, Essex, 2 children were asleep in the back, and their oldest, Kevin, was awake. As the family traveled down the rural road, they spotted a pale blue light on the left-hand side up in the sky. They would notice soon that the light appeared to be following their car on the dark road. As the family rounded a curve, they were terrified to discover that the pale blue light had turned and kept following them. The family kept driving down the road, and at this time the light seemed to hide. Then, around 500 yards away, the family would spot the light hovering directly over the road. They continued driving toward the light, and soon a strange green mist began covering the entire road. Right as they entered the mist, the radio on the car started breaking up, and eventually it heated and started smoking as if it was going to catch on fire. John began pulling wires from it in order to disable it. Then the car headlights went out and the engine died on the car. The mist was extremely thick and they couldn't see through it. It was around 8 to 10 feet tall, and inside it was freezing cold, and the family struggled to stay awake. Eerily, the sounds of nature disappeared and they were in complete silence. Then, after what felt like a few seconds, the green mist vanished. At this time, the car was in a different location, around half a mile down the same road. The couple kept driving, and they were terrified to realize that as they got home, it was around 1 a.m. They had lost 3 hours of time. The family tried to initially move on from the incident. However, whatever happened to them that night proved to be too much. John had a nervous breakdown just before Christmas that year and stopped working. Strange and scary things began happening all around the family. The family began hearing loud noises at night that sounded like a drone hovering above their home. People outside the family, like Elaine's sister, would hear them as well. In the living room, the family would report hearing clicking noises. Electrical devices began acting strange, like the television. One frightening story concerns what happened to one of John's children, Kevin. The child woke up and saw a man standing next to his bed, dressed like a clown. He was wearing almost all white. The family appeared to be followed by someone or something. Strange cars would sit outside their home and watch the family. It is thought that this was the Men in Black, and they were checking to ensure the family didn't report the incident. The situation got so serious that John called the police several times. In addition to the stalking and strange noises, the family's health habits began to change drastically. Perhaps not a negative thing, both John and Elaine gave up drinking alcohol. John gave up smoking, although he was a heavy smoker who had been smoking 3 to 4 packs a day. There didn't appear to be any natural reason why these habits changed, though. In addition to their health habits changing, both John and Elaine started having strange dreams. Elaine recalled lying on an operating table with a small being in a white coat experimenting on her. She also remembered standing next to her car, along with John and one of her children in a large room. Inside the room, there were men in gray one-piece suits walking around. John had similar dreams and recalled being operated by something that resembled a gnome. Interestingly, years earlier in 1968, John stated he saw a UFO and it made the engines of several cars die, nearly causing a massive collision on the freeway. Fed up the way things were going, John and Elaine eventually agreed to go under hypnosis. They were hesitant at first, but they realized they needed to understand what happened to them. They agreed to meet with UFO researcher Andrew Collins. Collins would bring along several other UFO researchers and also a hypnotherapist, Dr. Leonard Wilder. Dr. Wilder, the hypnotherapist, would perform the hypnotic regression. Under hypnosis, John recalled that as the car went into the thick green mist, a white beam hit the car and lifted it. He would then enter a large room and was separated from his family. There were two types of beings. The first was tall, with pink eyes and one-piece suits. They communicated with John by telepathy and told him not to be concerned about his family. These appeared to be in charge, as another being examined him. The smaller being had pointed eyes, a nose, pointed ears, hunched shoulders, and a white coat. When John asked where they had came from, the tall being said they didn't need to say, as they were not going to ever return. The beings did note they didn't have a reason for being here, as they have always been here. Soon, John was put on a metallic table and several instruments were used on him. John asked the beings where they came from and how they got here. As they explained the science, John could not understand the mechanics of how they first arrived on Earth. They also noted, once again, that they had no reason to return home. John later said, after the hypnotism sessions, that he believed that many of his thoughts were being blocked by the beings. Elaine recalled under hypnosis that after they entered the craft, her husband was separated from her and her children. Then Elaine was separated from the children. Elaine was extremely upset, and the beings assured her that they would be okay. Still very distressed, Elaine was taken into a large room where she would be examined. In the room, she would be strapped down to a table against her will. Still upset as she was strapped down and trying to fight, one of the beings told her telepathically that she needed to calm down or they wouldn't be able to examine her. After refusing, the tall entity came over and placed their hand on her forehead, and Elaine blacked out. In order to relax Elaine, the beings offered her some type of food which she believed had some sort of sedative in it. After Elaine declined, they began playing some type of music which Elaine recalled relaxed her. At this time, Elaine recalled the being saying, "Your children are safe. You value your children. We do not reproduce. We do not have children. We reproduce through you. You are our children." After the examinations under hypnosis, both John and Elaine recall being shown around the craft. After their tour, they would lie down, and the beings would tell them to look up at a screen. On the screen, a series of images would be on display. They popped up rapidly, and the beings began communicating inside both Elaine and John's head. The entities went on to say that their planet had been destroyed by pollution. They were here now for good. The Avis case is certainly a fascinating one. The case has common characteristics seen in many alien abductions, but also some traits not routinely seen. For instance, in many alien abduction cases, abductees report missing time. Also, it's well known that many abductees report being experimented on against their will. There are several characteristics, though, that are not typically seen. For one, the appearance of the beings appears to be very unique. This doesn't cast doubt on their story, but typically most abductees report either gray aliens or Nordics. Unfortunately, this case relies heavily on hypnotherapy, and many are skeptical in cases like this. One interesting aspect of this case is that it appears that paranormal activity, or poltergeist activity, could have been happening in the family's home. This raises the interesting question around why the paranormal would be attracted to alien abductees. Of course, this could as well be the beings monitoring the family after the alleged abduction. Did this case occur, though? It seems there are arguments for both sides. As mentioned, the case relies heavily on hypnotherapy. However, there does appear to be many strange things that happened to this family. For one, their health habits changing is very interesting. Also, they experienced several hours of missing time. By all accounts, this family was able to move on with their lives and didn't experience any adverse effects from this event, nor any more contact.